All right, so here we are with another of these evening sessions, evening webinars for you, where we bring in people from different B schools, different industry professionals come in here and they talk about their experiences. And today I have somebody who is probably the mix of the two. And why I say it's a mix of the two, we'll get to know in the next 1 hour that we are going to have this chat and conversation with. A couple of years back, if I would have told you that companies would operate completely remote, big business decisions would be taken online, consultants would not fly at all, you would have certainly not taken me seriously. The global pandemic and the ever-changing dynamics of the workspaces have not only made these very changes that I just mentioned, but have resulted in a constant shift. And with keeping that constant shift in mind, the B School curriculum is also evolving. Students of today have different requirements from education. They are looking for a career path that is constant with their interests, values, and abilities, which provides them the time also to have a side hustle. So how do you create a plan that lands you on the right career launchpad, and how do you present yourself as a strong candidate in the marketplace after a B School degree? To find answers to these questions and a lot more, we have Dr. Leena Chatterjee with us today, who's a professor of organizational behavior at Bschool. She prepares and mentors students for the challenges of the rapidly changing workplace. And Professor Chatterjee here, she's a PhD in social and organizational psychology from IIT Kanpur and has taught at IIM Calcutta for a whopping 36 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, Professor Chatterjee. Thank you very much for joining us today and taking the time out to talk to us about how the future of workplace and how the future workforce will look like.
I'm very happy to be here, Purnanshu. I love interacting with students in any form or any format, and I look forward to our interactions and discussions.
Lovely. Professor Chatterjee, to begin with, as I mentioned, it has been almost, 4 decades since you have been teaching and preparing B School graduates. In these, years, these many years that you have been part of the system, what do you see essentially changing in the last, say, 5 years? Majorly because a lot of shifts have taken place. Digitization is coming in a very big way. COVID has shifted a lot of gears, right, which the companies might have not have even thought about. So keeping all these things in mind, how does the learning pedagogy shift or evolve or taken a hit, according to your opinion?
Well, I mean, first of all, let me say that I don't think that the learning pedagogy has really changed as fast as the landscape. But having said that, I would say that if you look at the last 5 years, one of the things that I, as a teacher, have tried to incorporate into my classroom or into my sessions with my students is to bring in greater engagement, greater discussion. If you look at millennials and if you read all the research on them, you will find that they have a much shorter attention span.
Right.
They want everything.
Including me, Professor Chatterjee, including me.
Including you. So, you have to engage people who have a shorter attention span, who are able to Google any kind of information that is required. They don't need you to spout and share information. So you have to actually go beyond giving lectures or, sharing long,
PPTs
or theories with them or PPTs with them. You have to have pedagogy that excites them, that engages with them, that involves them much more. And therefore, you see that the pedagogy is also changing.
Right.
The other thing that is happening is that, you'll see that students are also much more tech savvy. So they like, for example, doing simulations or, exercises and games through, decision-making games through simulations. So you'll find that the pedagogy has really, over a period of time, transformed itself, shifted a little, and all of us are trying to be more creative and innovative in making learning exciting, relevant, and fun.
Right. I was mentioning about COVID and how that has, taken a hit, how that has aggravated a lot of processes within the curriculum also that the schools are looking for, and how they are going to prepare these students and the minds. When I actually went on campus to Bitsom also, where you teach currently, I spoke to, the director of the institute, and uh, I got to know that you are stressing on this fact that it's not just about academics. It's not just about cramming as many classes as possible. Keeping these times in mind, how in these kind of situations B schools should be approaching their curriculum. What exactly is the outlook that the B school should have?
So I think one of the things that we are doing, and that I really strongly believe in, is that you're not just preparing your student or your MBA student for work. You're preparing them for life.
Right.
I think the one thing that I have been very excited about, in terms of my own work at Bitsom, is that we are trying to create learners for life. And
Right.
when we talk about someone who is a learner for life, what we are trying to do is to get people to do work inside, to reflect, to look at who they are, look at what are their strengths, what are their areas of improvement, where they want to go, what is their purpose, even in the short run, and try to look at what are the gaps that they see between who they are and where they want to go. And we want them to utilize the 2 years to actually work on those gaps. So
Right.
that by the time they graduate from our institute, they are much more workplace ready, life ready.
Right. Professor Chatterjee, you have spent, almost all your, uh,
Work life.
I would say, yeah, work life. I was trying to say growing up years, but that would not be appropriate. But work life at IIM Calcutta, which is known as one of the best institutes this country has seen or produced, and people still think and believe that these are the institutes where one should go and have this learning. From that particular institute to coming and joining a relatively newer B school, what was the thought process? Why did you choose this B school to be the next B school where you could treat as a project and work on students?
I must say that I really enjoyed my years at IIM Calcutta.
Right.
I got a lot of freedom and autonomy to do a lot of interesting things in pedagogy, right from 30 years ago or 35 years ago, teaching organizational behavior through movies, through novels, things like that. So it's not that IIM Calcutta did not give me any opportunities, but I actually superannuated, which is basically a nice way of saying I retired from
Right.
IIM Calcutta this year. And when Professor Ranjan Banerjee invited me to join BitSom, I think what really attracted me to the institute was the wonderful, new curriculum that they had, the vision that he had of creating global institute out of Mumbai where we would have cutting edge curriculum. We would inculcate the habit of learning in our students, that we would have courses like our winning at the workplace courses, where we would teach not just interpersonal skills or life skills, but teach students about society and the constitution and storytelling and drama. I thought that it was just amazing that I would be part of this whole experience, and that I would be co-creating a lovely new institute with this ability to create a new curriculum without
Right.
any baggage. I
Right.
think it was really a very exciting invitation.
Absolutely, absolutely. But a lot of these times, what happens is, because of your prior experience, because of where you have worked, you bring in certain elements from there as well, right? And while you teach, that definitely comes into play. So, in your opinion, what are a few things that you are definitely carrying with you that you are going to use in the students that you are going to prepare at Bitsom, and how do you think that is going to be relevant at the times that we are living in?
So actually, I used to teach a very popular course at IIM Calcutta. I think it was a very highly bid course called Management of Self in Organizations. It was a
Right.
second year elective. Now, in an IIM Calcutta, I could not teach that course to the entire, to 460 or 480 students. And a lot of students would tell me, ma'am, that is my one regret. Or a lot of old students would come back and say that was one of the best courses I did in IIM Calcutta. Now, I took the idea from that course of, looking inwards and reflecting on who you
Right.
are, and trying to prepare yourself for the world, trying to deal with your own baggage so that you are coming out of this institute in a much more kind of better sort of mindset or perspective.
Right.
I took that and I created this one-on-one and the personal development plans for the students at Bitsong. So
Right.
actually I took elements from that, and I created this thing for everyone, all my students at Bitsong, because it's a
Right.
smaller institute. I have had one-on-one feedback sessions with all the students at the institute.
Right.
So I was able to scale up.
Perfect. Professor Chatterjee, you talked about, looking at yourself. And I think with this generation, FOMO is the buzzword. And we always live in this, ticking time bomb where we always think that we are missing out on so much because there is so much that is happening, right? The students often are baffled as to what to take in and what to reject. That's something that they need to constantly decide and discuss among each other and within themselves also. So how do you prepare these minds to deal with it, both during their academics and then later on when they're going to join the respective organizations that they've set out for?
So, Purnanshu, I find that one very important aspect of dealing with whether it is FOMO or peer pressure or keeping up with the Joneses is to be well anchored inside.
Right.
I think unfortunately when we are trying to find our priorities, or when we are trying to think of what would be the kind of values that I want to live by for my life, we are always looking outwards. We are looking at others and saying, oh, I want to be like him or her or them. And yes, it's wonderful. But then, sometimes in the process of looking at others as role models, we lose touch with which role model should I choose? Who should I be like? You want to be everybody.
Right.
And I think that one of the things that helps us, so there's a lot of research on FOMO, and it leads to envy, it can lead to anxiety, it can lead to depression, because you're always feeling that others are better off than you. There is always the burden of wanting to live up to the happening lives that other people are
Right.
seeming to have. So I think that somewhere when we do work with ourselves, when we actually sit and look inwards, and we try to sort of sort out a little bit of the confusion rather than always looking outside, at some point we have to look inwards and say that, okay, there are so many different opportunities I have. There are so many different activities I could be part of. But how do I prioritize? What is
Right.
it that I want to do rather than what is everyone doing? How do I
Right.
find myself? I think that when we do this work, I think self-awareness is the cornerstone of giving you a good anchor for taking decisions which are more thought through, which are more, kind of sorted. And it is also a very important cornerstone for career decisions.
Right. Absolutely. That brings me to this very interesting thing that I've been noticing, and that happens every year. After the CAT results are out, you will see, a barrage of messages, a barrage of LinkedIn posts saying that, I've gotten this particular B school and I will be joining this particular B school. And uh, we have to admit that CAT as an exam is an elimination exam, right? A lot of the chunk that actually appears for the examination is not going to convert those particular B schools that maybe they have targeted or aimed for. Uh, how do you make sure that at this point in time, you make the best out of what you have?
So I would say that, whenever we look at, I think rankings, I think there are many criteria which go into rankings and, of institutions or of even companies for placement or whatever. There are so many criteria. And I think that what is very important for us to do is to look at what is the institute offering in terms of a learning environment for us.
Right.
I think, you're paying a hefty fee, so you should get value for money.
Right.
Are you getting opportunities? For example, are you getting opportunities to grow, to have the best quality of knowledge and information that is possible? Does the institute offer those things? Does the institute uh, give you opportunities for developing yourself in terms of even your extracurriculars? In fact, in our institute at Bitsong, we are really concerned about ensuring that students have many experiences in interactions with organizations.
Right.
Along with the summer internship, we have actually 3 other live projects that the students get involved in, where they work with some organizations to solve some problem that has been given to them. One of these projects is a social project. So it's with social organizations. So, what is the exposure that I'm getting to opportunities for learning? I think these are things that we need to look for.
Absolutely. At this moment, I am going to take one question, and we will delve into more questions later on. But Jay is asking, how is Bitsong different from any other B school? Right? Because it's a new B school, people want to know more about this particular B school, and they would definitely like to make sure that a place that they're getting into gives them in return the kind of things that they should be getting in a B school of today.
So I would say that, when I was talking about looking at the learning opportunities, maybe I was thinking of Bitsong, because I think that this is an institute which is giving you exposure to the best faculty across the world.
Right.
I mean, across the world, right?
And that's another question by Jay. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Jay exactly at this moment asked, what are the other profs who are there at Bitsong? So if you can talk about
right now, so along with the world-class faculty that we have, will be teaching a large number of the courses. There is Professor Ranjan Banerjee and myself. We also have we are planning to have another 4 at least faculty joining in permanently, hopefully by before the next session starts, because we are going to be advertising for new faculty, and we are trying to grow and expand slowly.
Right.
We want the best. We want to ensure that we have good quality faculty, people who have current and cutting edge knowledge, and who are the best in whatever area of research they are in, whatever the teaching pedagogies that they use, etc. So that is one thing, absolutely. And as I said, at Bitsong we have a very kind of focused interest in each student that we take in. We want to see our students develop, grow, and succeed. And absolutely, we do everything in terms of all the workshops, the inputs, the exposure. We have something called a leadership series, where we get leaders to come in and give talks to our students once a month. So you have a lot of exposure both to industry as well as to academia.
Right. And then do you think, Professor Chatterjee, at this moment, the age-old methods of teaching and learning that we have seen, over the years, reading the same case studies again and again, is this relevant for today? And if not, how is it that you can make sure that you redefine yourself as a B school again and again?
Yeah. So I would say that, as I said right in the beginning, that the learners are changing, the environment is changing, but maybe the curriculum is not changing as fast.
Right.
Having said that, I would say that yes, all the top institutes of management are trying to keep pace, whether it's in terms of introducing new areas which are relevant to students. So a lot of the institutes are focused on things like big data or data analytics, and technology as a leverage to dealing with various functions in the organization. So yes, that is something that is happening in curricula across the board. Yes, I would say that a lot of the older institutes continue to use only or mostly case studies, but definitely I think there are a lot of capstone projects and what we call management games that are being used to engage in more interactive learning. So I would say that change comes because every institute has to revisit their curriculum from time to time.
Right.
It may not be a disruptive change, but I think every institute, if they have to survive, does it.
Lovely. Great. At this point, I would like to mention this to the audience who's watching this particular conversation. Professor Chatterjee is here. We are going to take up as many questions as possible. So feel free to add those questions in the chat box, like the questions that we have taken. If you have any questions regarding the learning pedagogy, regarding Bitsome, because we all know that it's a new institute and want answers for your queries that are there, feel free to do that. There is a team sitting and they might also be able to answer those questions on the chat box itself. Moving on, Dr. Chatterjee, I really want to know what gives you the drive, what makes you feel that today is a new day and I'm going to go and I'm going to prepare these new bunch of kids in front of me who are there in the class.
I have a passion for what I do. It's my calling.
Right.
I'm not a teacher because, that was the only other option that was available to me in life. I chose to be a teacher. I always say I have such a wonderful job. I'm being paid to read and to talk, two things I love to do.
Right. And what better way to, prepare those minds with all the teaching and learning and reading that you have done?
I'm so lucky because I'm engaging with young, bright minds all the time. So, it energizes you so much. I think I'm very lucky to be in this profession.
Right. Professor Chatterjee, we were talking about, how this new breed of people who are going to join these workforces from, after they are done with their Bschools, how they are looking at work so differently. And in the last 2.5 years that we have seen COVID rampaging the workspaces and work in general, we have seen a lot of people doing side hustles, right? People are working at various organizations and simultaneously they are working on something on their own. They're creating their own identities and their brands, right? In doing something for themselves and creating a self brand is what, if that is what is being, if the students are being drawn to more and more to that, how do you see this and how are you going to prepare minds accordingly at the institute that you are teaching right now?
So let me say this, that whether you like it or not, with so much of, social media engagement, people are going to be doing this. Creating your personal brand is very much a part of it. In fact, I think, during some of their communication courses at Bitsome, I think students are also taught about how to, create a good presence on LinkedIn, for example. Right. So it is, something that everyone is talking about. In the old days, we used to talk about impression management and we used to talk about how do you dress, how do you, communicate, etc. Today, it's all on social media. And so I think the young people are going to do that. I think that, they are going to, leverage that social media. And I think in our courses, we are also teaching them how to use it for their own work, how social media can be used in marketing, in various other ways to create a buzz or, to do things. So I think that, I think that's something that I do know that a lot of institutes teach courses on how to leverage social media. So that is one aspect. What else did you ask me? You asked me about.
So my whole idea is, why I asked you this question is because people are not sticking to just one organization in the work that they're doing, right? Hierarchies are something that we are not seeing being built anew. A lot of these hierarchies are being broken down and people are working independently and individually as well, right? This whole sense of individual working is something that is being culminated in them through the kind of environment that they are seeing and are being exposed to every day. People are seeing every day that people are making their own self brands through these platforms. So in leveraging that, as an institute, as a person who has seen all this while, how students evolve and how do they become ready for the organization, what is that you are doing currently at the Bschool Institute?
So well, let me just say this, that young people today are not just looking at work as I have to go and sort of do a job. They are looking at how we work and why we work. Right. And so therefore they want greater autonomy in making these choices. And I think that today's generation is prioritizing both flexibility and fulfillment. Also, they are better at multitasking.
Right.
So I think that they are going to use their capabilities in a variety of different ways in connecting with uh, both maybe a formal job and maybe, as you call it, a side hustle.
Right.
The thing is that how do I manage these two interfaces? Right. And I think this is where, when you have a good understanding of what are your priorities, what makes you happy, when you are able to understand how you can manage each of these, then it becomes easier for you to kind of navigate these two things. Right. And I think that this whole process of reflection at our institute would help students to understand that, okay, yes, I want to be a brand manager, but I also want to be an influencer. Right. So how do I navigate the two?
Right, absolutely. Professor Chatterjee, I'll take one question now here. Shiny Mandal is asking, sometimes, especially when you are making a career switch, let's say from finance to HR, but because of lack of HR background, how is it that one can convince an organization, institute, that they can do it or learn it on the go because of their inherent passion or liking for the subject? So basically, they're asking, when they're switching, how do you make sure that you come across as somebody who is capable of doing that?
Yeah. So ultimately, it's about signaling. How do you signal to the organization that you are capable of taking up the job? One aspect is your interest and your passion, but the other aspect is what are the technical skills required for that role. So, I would say that, it's very important for you to take up some courses or do some short-term certifications or some program that helps you to showcase that even if you do not have complete knowledge or you're not the expert, you have worked on yourself and you have developed some body of knowledge.
Right.
So if you don't do that, on what basis will an organization, want to make that or take that risk with you? So you have to put in that effort. You have to put your money where your interest is, so to speak. You have to put in that effort. And I think, there are so many certification programs around these days. There are so many, and you need to find out. There's so much of information available about what will help.
Right.
It's always important to identify what are the competencies required for this new role, and to work towards developing at least some of them.
Right. So that brings me to this question, while you are doing your MBA, is it necessary, or will you advise that people do a lot of these certification and other courses as well, while they are at it?
If they feel that there is something that they want to go into in depth, there is no harm. There is no limit to our learning. In fact, even at IIM Calcutta, I remember, any student who was specializing in finance would be doing those CFA 3 levels or whatever. I mean, they would join the institute and would start off on it. So I think, a lot of students do, and there are some very good courses on R or Python or something that somebody thinks is going to be adding value. If the course curriculum does not always give you all the, subjects that you want, there are so many available across the world that we can. So I think it's about taking more initiative in customizing our, knowledge, and in getting the relevant, doing the relevant things to enhance our.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm again calling out to our audiences. We are having this conversation with Professor Chatterjee, and we will take in a lot of other questions that will come in due course. If you have any question around Bitsome, around admission, around how the learning pedagogy at Bitsome works, and how Professor Chatterjee can be the person who can teach you and guide you in such a way that you land up to your dream Bschool, the chat box is open. Feel free to ask your questions, and we will take in as many questions as we can. Moving on, Dr. Chatterjee, I have another question here for you. This has been asked by Ditij. Ditij is asking, how do the Bschools adapt to the latest technological trends in their specialization? Specifically speaking from Bitsome's perspective, if you can talk a little more about it, what are the kind of changes that we are looking at, keeping in mind COVID and the digital transformation that has taken place?
So, at Bitsome, actually, we have, a set of courses called, we call them transformative learning. And we have a lot of courses on, how we can leverage technology, on data analytics, on, design thinking. So we do have a lot of, cutting edge courses to help you to deal with the digital age, so to speak. All right. Besides that, and who are the people who teach these? We get people who are, doing research, or who are the experts in these areas. We also get people who are working, who are perhaps using these technologies to come in and take sessions, or to take part of the course, or to do the whole course. So I think in terms of reaching out to the right, people who will be able to deliver these latest, or the technologies that are current, we do get people who are current and relevant themselves.
Right. I have a very unusual question here. I don't get to see this question a lot. Abhishek Sen is asking whether to go for a full-time MBA at the age of 40 with only 4 years of experience from the education industry. How do you answer this?
So just say that again. You're at the age of 40.
Yeah, with only 4 years of experience from the education industry.
With 4 years of, okay.
Yeah.
So I would say that it depends on what is your reason for wanting to do the MBA.
Right.
I would say that if it is for placement, then at the age of 40 with 4 years in the education sector, it will be a little tough for you to reinvent yourself. My very honest feedback. But it depends. Are you trying to kind of, upskill yourself in terms of knowledge? Are you doing it so that you can, maybe do a PhD or something like that? So what is your end goal? Think about your end goal first. Where do you want to go? And will the MBA help you to go there? All right, because at 40, there would be a little more of a difficulty in getting into, definitely into mid-level or senior level positions in organizations. And there will be an opportunity cost as well.
Right. Shrishti Rastogi is asking, Professor Chatterjee, should I only consider to join a Bschool which is more well-known and have a good placement record, or there are more criteria that we should keep in mind?
So again, I would I think I said this a little a while ago. I think that it depends again on, what is your end goal again? Are you looking for placements in a certain kind of thing, and then you look for, institutes where such companies go, etc.? Or are you looking for learning, and are you looking for, getting a good all-round education, what Ranjan Banerjee calls the whole brain, education, and which will prepare you for any job anywhere.
Right.
Your first job out of placement is not the only job you're going to have in your career.
Absolutely.
But if you are well prepared, I think it's almost like, you're 70% of the way to a great career.
Sure. I've gotten another question from Abhishek Barua. Abhishek is asking, ma'am, I'm a 2020 graduate with no work experience. Will only CAT score help me, or should I take admission in these certification courses? So while you're making that,
for getting into an MBA school?
Yes.
Oh. No, I mean, I don't think getting into an MBA school requires you to already have some certifications.
Right.
It's when you get out of MBA school into the workplace that maybe some of these certifications will help you for your, jobs. Right. So they look at your kind of certain academic
Hello.
Have I frozen too?
Can you hear me, Dr. Chatterjee? Yeah. Can you hear me, Dr. Chatterjee? You're on mute.
Yeah.
I think you got frozen. Yeah. Can you repeat that bit again, please?
Yeah. So we were talking about.
So we were talking about certifications and courses.
So all I said was that for getting entry into Bschool, you will not necessarily need a certification. So that's not such an issue.
Right. Okay. So that brings me to a question that I had for you. Some key attributes or skills or quality, as we may call it, the students must develop during their Bschools. Certifications and upskilling yourself is one part of it. But during that entire period that you are at a particular Bschool, what are the kind of skills that you should be definitely developing in yourself to be assured of a great career ahead?
Look, I'll tell you, in today's world, for me, there are 2 or 3 things that are very important to be successful. One is initiative. You need to showcase that you are ready and willing to, go forward, to show that you are a learner and you're willing to try out things and have that curiosity, stay curious, stay hungry, that kind of thing. The second is resilience. Resilience is about the ability to deal with failure, to bounce back, to have a plan B, to be able to, to not get too disheartened by things that happen to you.
Right.
Dealing with so much more uncertainty today. And I think COVID has really been such a great teacher as far as resilience is concerned.
Right.
So I think resilience is something that I would talk about as a very important skill that we need to develop. And to be flexible, to be agile, to be willing to upskill yourself, to be, willing to invest in yourself. I think that's what will help you.
Ma'am, Akash Mishra has just asked a question saying that tell us a little about block learning strategy and how it is different from other Bschools. So if you can stress a little bit on that, and then we can move on from there. Yeah.
So, the block teaching method is used by some institutes abroad as well. Now, what we do, therefore, in this is that you tend to take 2 weeks, a 2-week chunk, and we do 2 courses during that week. All right, just 2 courses, and you do the entire course during the 2 weeks. Now, actually, in other institutes, what do you have? You have a term system. Right. You have 3 months where you will be doing, say, 5 or 6 or 7 courses. So here you're getting a kind of a deep immersion in a couple of courses, and you're focusing on them and you're completing them. We also have only about 4.5 hours of courses in a day. So we're also giving students time to do other things, to reflect, to participate in those, in our live projects. So we are going them opportunities not just to be spending a lot of time in the classroom, but engaged in other activities as well. All right. So this is the block teaching. So for 1 term, you would have probably 6 blocks.
Right.
And that is how the block teaching thing works.
Right. There's another question that came in from Akash through. Akash is asking, I'm a 2018 graduate. So is it advisable for me to go for an MBA now? It's two different questions that came in. I think both were asking sort of the same question, saying that, what is the ideal work experience that I should be having with me to join a B school? And, is it something that you are advising that a 2018 graduate, should they try again, fresh?
So 2018 means you have about 4 years of work ex, right? So I think that's absolutely okay. Now, let me just say one thing, that there are many institutes which have a 1-year executive MBA.
Right.
You'll find that typically people with a large number of years of work ex would do that because, there the program is more compressed into that 1 year. And, you probably have what we call lateral placements or placements for people with more work experience. But I would say that ideally, to get into a 2-year MBA program, maybe 2 to 4 years would be a good, set of experiences, maybe up to 5 years or so. Beyond that, you can still do an MBA. There's no hard and fast rule, but don't do it. But I think it would be a little more difficult for you to reinvent yourself.
Right.
So if you are planning to do an MBA and go back to the same industry, probably it will help you. But if you're planning to do something totally different, getting into entry levels after 8 years of work ex may be tough.
Right.
Something else after 8 years. Yeah.
Right. There's another question from Saurav that came in. It's again an admission question. He's a mechanical engineer, and he says that puts him into a slightly disadvantageous state because B schools look for diversity. How does Saurav present himself to come out as a right fit for a B school like yours or B school in general?
Yeah. So Saurav, what I would say is this, that let's not make assumptions that mechanical engineers are, sort of flourishing everywhere so that you're not going to, be different from others.
Right.
I think each of us can be different in a variety of ways. It could be in terms of maybe an interesting extracurricular that we do or have, So it could be in terms of maybe something else that we have done in our lives that was interesting, maybe a project or maybe worked with an NGO, so there is so much to us that contributes to diversity. Diversity is not just in terms of functional areas or gender. It's also in terms of what you've done. What is it that you're bringing to the table in terms of being different from others? You could have been a chess player who has reached a state level, or I don't know, something or the other. You could have done drama at some level. So I think it's also about those aspects. So don't shortchange yourself. I think don't get overly, unhappy about your being a mechanical engineer.
Right. Looking at the future, Professor Chatterjee, do you think corporates will be a little easier on the freshers? Do freshers have more chances going forward, getting the roles that they desired for, or do they have to have these work experience in the back of their shoulder to bag these roles?
I think it depends on different roles and different industries. I mean, there are certain kinds of companies and roles where people prefer young people. So they want freshers. They want to be able to mold them and maybe, exact as much energy that they can from them. For example, I think, a lot of investment banks love young people.
Right. So those who are listening, who are interested in investment banking, Professor Chatterjee is saying freshers have a chance in investment banking. Yeah, please go ahead.
You have to be good at other things like problem solving and puzzles and things like that as well. But what I'm trying to say is this, that it's not that freshers are sort of looked down on or, across organizations. And neither is it that, people with work experience have an advantage or a disadvantage. It depends on the fit.
Right.
And the industry.
Right. Absolutely. And that brings me to a question that always bothers me, Dr. Chatterjee. COVID has made a lot of these individuals working from their homes, but working from home has immensely increased this entire work-life balance being scattered, being thrown out of the window. What is your opinion on that? Do you think work-life balance is is the thing of the past, or we have some hope that we can revive it?
Not at all. Have you heard of the Great Resignation or the reshuffle? The reshuffle.
Absolutely.
See, when you've gone through something like COVID, many people have started questioning their purpose in life or meaningfulness. Each of us has stories of close friends or family who have passed away, and young people. So, all these things do force us to think a little more about what we want in life. What gives me meaning? What is it that I want? So you'll find interestingly that a lot of people are saying that they are looking for work-life balance. They want that flexibility. So employees, are kind of raising issues with companies which are kind of trying to force them to, come back to work, or to give them a burnout because of long hours and things like that. So I think there is a kind of a pushback from employees, and I think young people are very clear that they want both a life and work. They don't want just work. So I don't think work-life issues are going out anytime soon. In fact, I think they're going to be really at the center of discussions between employers and employees. I think companies that do it right, that put employees first, that are concerned about mental health issues, that show empathy to their employees, are going to attract much more of talent as compared to those that don't.
Right. Professor Chatterjee, if I have to, simplify this to our audiences, what is it that, the future of workplace is going to look like? What are the few factors that companies of tomorrow are going to keep in mind? And as individuals who are going to work on these, in these organizations, what should we keep in mind as employees?
So, Nanshu, you talked a little while ago, sometime back, about hierarchy and things like that. Now, it's very interesting. You will find that young people today want more autonomy. They want to have more freedom and choice. And you will find that therefore, and this COVID experience has taught all of us that, organizations in the past were a little more rigid about work arrangements. You have to come to work at 9, you have to do this, you have to do that. I think if there's anything that COVID has taught us, it is that organizations can be flexible. Right. So I think that a lot of organizations are looking at hybrid and organizations, or at flexible timings, as really the way forward.
Right.
So I think that is going to get incorporated. So you won't have this so much. That is what I think. That's how I see it. That there will be definitely much more flexibility going forward.
Right. Professor Chatterjee, Harshal here has asked a very specific question about a specific domain that he wants to get into. He's asking, what is the relevance of storytelling when I have to get a shortlist for a marketing company?
I think.
And how do we do that?
I think that storytelling is a very useful and very, I think it's a very important tool, especially in today's world when we are kind of trying to attract attention and using social media. Storytelling is a beautiful way of getting into marketing and using it as a tool. But that is one of the tools, right?
Right.
So that, yes, definitely, storytelling has really become much more important.
Absolutely. There's another question from Shubhadeep Dey. Shubhadeep is asking, while switching roles or switching rival companies, which happens quite a lot when we're talking about corporates and how things work in general, how difficult it is to prove one's loyalty to the company by disproving the same of previous company, and how to go about it? Get these questions?
No, I didn't understand the question.
But the question is, so the question is basically, if I'm joining a rival company or I'm just switching a company, how difficult is it to prove one's loyalty to the company by disproving the same for previous company, so that I don't want to sound like I don't like my previous company, but I'm loyal to you also.
Yeah, so I think that the first thing is that, I think you should never badmouth any company. I think it's not a very, I don't think anyone would like it.
Yeah.
And therefore, when you move forward into another organization, your loyalty comes from showing eagerness to do things, showing a willingness to take responsibilities and to maybe go beyond what is being asked of you, right? I think that's how you show loyalty to a company, not by putting down some other company. And certainly, one good practice would be not going on talking about, but in X, this is what we did.
Right.
Right? So you don't do that either. So I think it's about how you perform and how you show willingness to get engaged with the organization.
Right.
That is what's important.
Right. Professor Chatterjee, we are sorry. We are coming to the fag end of this particular conversation. There are a lot of questions that we have taken. There's, I think, still a lot of questions that is there in the minds of people. But I would like to know, and I would like you to talk about this a little. What exactly are the kind of students that you're looking for when you are making that selection for the upcoming batch of Bitsom? What exactly are the skill sets that you're looking for, or the kind of abilities that you're looking for while you're making that selection?
So, broadly, I would say we are looking for people who are learners, who are curious, who have energy, who, are we are also looking, of course, for diversity in a variety of ways, as I said, not just in terms of functional or, what kind of educational background you're coming from. And we are looking for people who, are collaborative, who have, experience of, working with others, who enjoy working with others, because whether you like it or not, all of us have to work with others as we get into organizations. And we are looking for people who are keen to upskill themselves, to participate. So what I talked about, initiative, resilience, openness, flexibility, agility, all these kinds of qualities. But yes, that's what we would want students to be like.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Professor Chatterjee. I think with that, we can conclude this particular webinar today. I think we spoke in detail about what Bitsom is looking for in a particular student and how they are trying to get into, in the realm of Bschools, which can teach the students, the minds of the upcoming minds who are going to be leaders in the future, who are going to be the managers, who are going to take decisions and make policies and define how businesses and corporates are. Any last piece of advice before we leave to all the students who are listening today, Professor Chatterjee, and what exactly are you expecting this particular generation to work towards and achieve their goals?
Well, I'll go back to your FOMO thing.
Right.
My advice to all of you would be that think about why you want to do an MBA. I think that's something that's very important. What do you expect to gain from an MBA? And I think that, that clarity of goal or that clarity of purpose will help you through any interview that you have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Chatterjee. It was pleasure talking to you. I think as students, as professionals, we all need to just sit back and reflect and, see what we are doing right now and what we think we can achieve. On that, note, I would like to end this particular session today. Thank you for all the tidbits that you've provided. There is a link in the chat box that my team has been putting up. If you want to know more about Bitsom and the kind of programs and the learning pedagogy and the kind of offers that Bitsom is going to provide you, you can click on that link and check that out. Do tell us in the comments below if you like this session and what else would you want us to cover next. Thank you very much, Professor Chatterjee, again, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, Fernancho.